This issue of Fashion Classics takes you back to the fall of 1993. Find out what was making fashion news. It was the year that American Oscar de la Renta became the head of a French couture house. And you'll meet cover girl Jennie Brown, who was at the top of the modeling world in 1993. Drop in at the Nicky Clarke salon for head-turning results. And meet 1993's master tailor, Antonio Fusco. Take a walk in the chicest shoes from Walter Steiger. Plus, the fallouts of the season and more as we fall back to 1993. In the fall of 1993, the elements were falling into place. Every designer the world over was endorsing change, which was good news for the consumer because the merchandise was exciting and wearable. Fall 1993 was all about the birth of a new aesthetic, one that was built around a long, gently fluted silhouette. The softly flowing, sensuous silhouette launched the season before was confirmed, and it was all about elongating the body. Smaller shoulders and bust line, then softening slightly as it flowed down the body. This new silhouette usually ended in a long, fluttery hemline. In 1993, layers were important in varying lengths. Designers put such a sense of movement into the fabrics that all the weight and austerity melted away, even when the overall color was black, which in 1993 it most often was. Black was no challenge. It was what in reality we were wearing the most. Black was the best bet to sell the new silhouette. And once you got past the fact that long was inevitable, there was real pleasure in realigning a black-based wardrobe to capture the season's gracefulness and romance. Key elements included flared pants, skirts, and tunics. A new softness also made news for fall 1993. Knitwear came into its own again. Not since the 1970s had knitwear been this important. Every collection in 1993 offered great knit looks. Key knits included bulky cardigan coats, mohair sweaters, and slim sweater dresses. Soft, plush velvets ruled the runways and gave an undercurrent of decadence to the apparent mood of sobriety. Rich but not flashy, velvet defined the season. But 1993's new softness was also visible in fall fabrics that were as light as a spring breeze. Designers sent sheers floating down the runways. It was a viable fall option as sheer pants, sheer skirts, or sheer tops were sufficiently layered with heavier fabrics. There is also a new sentimentality as antique cross-dressing took hold. 1992's too masculine menswear bombed at retail, but 1993's dandy was a softened version of modern menswear, borrowing from the 18th and 19th centuries. Frock coats in subtle hourglass shapes with vests and greatcoats were some of the season's hottest items. But most important was the long white shirt, a softening element that made 1993's tailored looks seem romantic. Foppish accessories added even more sentimentality. Overall, a new subtlety took hold as naturally enhanced makeup added fall's finishing touch. Calvin Klein's anti-everything look expressed it best. His models were absolutely bare-faced. Gone were trendy gimmicks, confirming the big change that took place for fall '93. Oscar de la Renta made news in 1993 as the first American to head up a French couture house. The fashion fashion world watched in amazement as 60-year-old Della Renta brought a calm sparkle back to the House of Balmain.
It's a challenge, and I think it's sort of, I'm having a wonderful time doing it, you know. It's sort of a dream.
The House of Balmain, long known for its exquisite creations, had been suffering since the 1982 death of couturier Pierre Balmain, who opened the house in 1945. Originally a student of architecture, Balmain's talent as a designer laid in his ability to make simple tailored suits and grand evening gowns. In 1993, Oscar de la Renta restored the House of Balmain to life.
Obviously, I knew the name of Pierre Balmain very well, though I really never met him personally. But I didn't really know what the house was all about, what was Le Style Balmain. And I spent a lot of time sort of going through all the books and trying to visualize what that style was, you know. And obviously, there was not a jacket that will tell me this is Balmain. There's nothing that I could recognize, you know, as a garment that I would say this is Balmain and this is something that everyone else will recognize as Balmain. And I realized obviously that Balmain really made very beautiful clothes, very romantic clothes, very, you know, very feminine. And I say it's a good marriage because in fact this is what I do, you know, I make very feminine, very romantic clothes. I love to dress, I mean, a real woman. And I felt that in that sense, our philosophies, you know, are no different. You know, I think that for other houses to bring designers to, you know, to remake those houses and having them a very strong, different point of view from what the house originally was, I think is wrong. In my case, I strongly feel that what I did and what I do is not very different of what the Balmain philosophy of designing and making clothes all about. So I think it works well.
In these halls of Parisian history, Oscar fit perfectly into the Balmain aesthetic. He understood the exotic world of the couture from his youthful years working for Balenciaga and Lanvin. He executed beautiful collections with a peerless eye for fabric, detail, and nuance, garnering raves for translating the traditional into the distinctly modern.
Fashion is a reflection of the times we live, and it's constantly moving and constantly changing. And I have been working now for many years, and there have been all different kinds of, you know, trends, and trends that I understood well and felt comfortable with, and trends that I was not so comfortable with. On the other hand, I think that working now into the 90s, there's this whole new femininity, you know, which I think is something that I understand well.
Oscar had taken on a huge challenge, now responsible for 4 collections a year, 2 couture and 2 ready-to-wear.
I think that the only way that I could really build a credibility to the house is if a lot of people will come back to the House of Balmain and order clothes. Slowly, we are building a credibility, you know, to the house, that this is a true fashion house in the sense that a woman can come here and buy a dress that she falls in love with. But the most important thing is really that this is a house that is alive and that is creating fashion for a woman who wants to wear them. And as I say, it's a little bit like the fulfillment of a dream, because though obviously I love my life in America, I certainly adore my work there. You know, this is something sort of quite different, and working with the people here really has been a challenge and great fun.
Oscar de la Renta continued his work at the House of Balmain until 1997, when newcomer Andrew Eng took over the post.
They were awful. My first pictures were terrible.
That all changed. By 1993, English model Jennie Brown had risen to the top of the modeling pack.
Well, it's a very long story. In the good old days, I just sort of drifted into it, really. Went to live in Madrid, had a good time. Went back to London, still didn't work, and I Went to Germany for about a month, worked every day, had enough money to come to Paris, started out in Paris. Took a while to get going and I've been doing okay ever since. I've been doing really good. I'm very happy.
Jennie was discovered while looking into fashion colleges. Now she's got the look.
I don't know, what is my look? I mean, I think it works in a lot on how you get along with people. You know, I think it's important to be nice and I don't know. I mean, why do people book me? I mean, just me, you know. That's a really difficult question.
In 1993, Jennie also landed a lucrative Ultima 2 contract.
Ultima 2 lip sexy. I am too sexy for Milan. Too sexy for Milan, New York.
It looked like Jennie was established as part of modeling's new generation of supermodels.
I just think it's nice to see a lot of new faces. It's much more interesting, a lot of different faces in the magazines, and I think it's great the way it's going. It's just, you know, I'm working, my friends are working, I'm fine. It's just good fun. It's a good laugh. You know, it's just enjoy it. Get out there, do your best and enjoy it.
Face of 1993, Jennie Brown.
Cut that bit.
Who is London's leading hairdresser to loyal and royal clientele in 1993? Nicky Clarke. In his exclusive salon in the heart of London's Mayfair district, Clarke was setting new creative standards.
The philosophy of the salon is a contradiction in terms in some ways, because although I wanted to set out to be the most opulent, the most grandest looking salon, I wanted the people within there to feel at their most comfortable. It's a very English attitude anyway, to have those wonderful grand mansions and then have everybody looking like slobs inside, putting their feet up on the furniture and stuff. So that's the idea.
Filled with fine antiques and art, the salon is an eclectic, cozy setting for cutting-edge hair.
The mood at the moment has definitely taken a swing back towards the 70s. I mean, there is no doubt about it. We're seeing lots of kind of feather cuts. We're seeing lots of sort of centre partings and, you know, straight hair. And I've done a number of things recently where I've adapted it to different clients, maybe older clients that have been through it once, where one has to take a kind of slightly 90s edge to it. But I think it's fun.
If keeping up with the trends isn't your idea of fun, Clarke has great advice for everyone who wants their hair to fall perfectly into place.
There isn't a person in the world that doesn't have a disaster story where hair is concerned. It's like having a builder's story or a car mechanic story. Everybody's got one. I think that the only way that one can try and ensure those things don't happen is communication. And to a certain extent, word of mouth. I mean, one should talk to friends, go up to people in the street if one has to. I mean, it's such a wonderful compliment anyway to go up to somebody and say, my God, your hair's wonderful, who does it? You know, find out, I mean, spend a little bit of time to actually investigate who is good in your particular area. The most common mistakes that women make is, first of all, either to do not enough to their hair or they do way too much. And there's usually no kind of in-between. The thing that one has to do when one is evaluating what is best for a client is really just to talk to that person. You know, find out what their aspirations are. There are certain generalisations that one can make in terms of what is going to suit one person or another. You know, we're both after the same thing. I'm after that person leaving the salon looking sensational, and that's all I want.
Great cuts for 1993 or for today at Nicky Clarke. For over 15 years, Antonio Fusco has been the design world's best-kept secret. But his exquisite tailoring captured the fashion spotlight in 1993. Although he studied around the world and honed his craft at the venerable House of Cerruti, Fusco's design roots harken back to more humble beginnings.
My mother had designed a collection, and from when I was young, I assisted her with the designs and the fabrics, and that led to my great passion for fashion. And after several years, I became a tailor. I went to school to learn the more technical aspects of how to become a good tailor, of not only how to design a collection, but how it is truly made. Just knowing how to design a collection would not be enough.
And Fusco's technical know-how is what made his collection a success. With the advantage of working with Italy's fine tailors, Fusco draws inspiration from his country's rich landscape.
The inspiration for the colors we take more or less from the image of the countryside, also from the ocean, from places such as Portofino, the Caribbean, the Côte d'Azur. They are the colors of nature, of sand, of the forest.
The first thing we do is look at all the shades and colors, and we try to get the sensation of each shade, keeping in mind what we want to represent in the upcoming season. Then we begin with the foundation. Generally, we have a particular foundation of classics that we use. That's what creates our look. And then each season, we add a new flair, new details to those basics, to update ourselves and create a classic look that is modern. And just from looking through all the colors together and working together, the ideas begin to develop between the two of us.
Their ideas are developed further in the factory adjacent to Fusco's studio, where sketches are translated into patterns. Each step is overseen by Fusco's skilled artisans, who transform fine fabrics into clothing masterpieces.
We always tend to create pieces that will last a very long time. We use fabrics of the highest quality, and we try to do all the tailoring by hand, because we find that the clothes last much longer. We want them to be around past the current season, for years and years to come, 10, 20 years. The way I see a woman who wears my clothes is a woman who is intelligent, who works, who is fit, and has a beautiful personality. She can't waste a great deal of time trying to find a perfect fit for her. She has to focus on the more important things. This is the Antonio Fusco woman.
Questa è la nostra donna, Antonio Fusco.
1993's master of fine tailoring, Antonio Fusco. To keep in perfect step in 1993, the fashion pack turned to Walter Steiger. For more than 25 years, Steiger has been designing sculptural footwear.
What attracts me in shoe, it's because first it's the shape, because it's like a sculpture. It's also because it's very fashion. I think it's the most fashion accessoire, maybe the only fashion accessoire, really. The shoe each season change, and it's really, sometimes it's more important that the shoe is in fashion as a dress.
Steiger is passionate for shoes. His love affair begins in Italy, where his footwear is finely handcrafted. And with over 25 boutiques around the world, Walter Steiger shoes are always a step ahead.
It's quite a long story because I start very young as a shoemaker when I was a young boy to learn to make shoe really by hand, the traditional way. But always the fashion side was what I adhered to. The best, the nicest is when the shoe is very simple and in the same time very new. Sometimes the shoe it's very aggressive but becomes quite classic with the time. I make shoe from the flat, from the sport to the evening, but in fact the whole line, it's one line, on one look, on one tendency. The first inspiration is always what's happening in fashion. I follow absolutely all what's happening ready to wear, and this I have of course to follow this. And the evolution, it's like fashion. I mean, each season we have to bring something new, and I try to do this. The comfort is one very important point in shoe. And as I say, we have always the fashion and the comfort, and the limit is to have the most fashion to the comfort. But sometimes we have to make a little sacrifice. I think fashion have no explanation, because I remember we used to say short is flat and long is high, but after we had short with high and we had short with boots, now we had long with boots, so it's no explanation, it's just a question of moment.
Walter Steiger, a fashion classic. Now that you've seen what was in for fall 1993, here are some of the fashion fallouts. Didn't your mother tell you never to mix prints? Fall 1993 saw some truly bizarre combinations. And on the dark side, some creations looked as if they'd just flown in from outer space. Other looks seem to contradict the feel of the season entirely. Too much, too late. Sure, they say hats keep your head warm, but sometimes fashion goes too far. It's a fashion flashback to 1993 from Fashion Classics.